Welcome to Behind the Scenes at ID8 Studios, the place where we explore the art of producing art. I'm Steve Sue with
Crystal Backey, and we're here with Ian Kelly.
Good to see you guys again.
Thanks for coming in, Ian. And you're going to teach us a little bit about
how to shoot sports photography.
Yeah, shooting sports photography. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have a bit more experience than I do. I've only been doing this for about 9 months, but I think in this time I've been able to learn a lot, and I think I can probably teach a few things to some people.
So sports photography seems to me like waiting for lightning to strike. Is that typical of sports? I mean,
in a way, like you want to be ready for something like that, but there's 1 in a million chances of catching a lightning strike, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta hang around long, or just shoot a lot of frames.
Or have nothing to do the entire day and just have your camera rolling at all times. Hopefully you'll get it.
You don't have the camera rolling, right? You kind of like...
I have a camera like pointed and ready to be ready.
Okay.
Like being ready is very important for sports because something major, something amazing could happen just like that if you're not paying attention.
So it's like a tripod key, so you could just stay in that position?
A monopod, actually, I would recommend.
Okay.
Because you want to also be ready to move as well for the action, because tripods, you might be able to move really quickly, but sometimes the action's happening so fast that you need to be able to keep up with it. So tripods are great for beginners, especially because games can last for about 3 hours. And if you want to hold gear for 3 hours, having a tripod is a great start. But I'm more of a monopod enthusiast with sports myself.
What's your favorite sports event to shoot? What sport?
Baseball has been fun. I've really loved shooting for volleyball this year. That really got my passion going. I think, and this is a wild card, one that I haven't shot yet that I really want to shoot is ice hockey. Ice hockey is really, really nice because there's a lot of fighting going on. You know how like football, soccer is popular in Europe. We don't really, with American football and basketball, those are really popular sports there. But when you go to let's say a playoff atmosphere where there's so much on the line, there's a lot of energy in the stadiums. I've been to football playoff games, I've been to basketball playoff games, and I've been to hockey playoff games. Nothing compares to ice hockey playoff games because it's so loud, it's so energetic, and you see the players' reactions are so much more vibrant. So being able to capture something like that, or being able to capture something, especially up close, in my opinion, is a dream.
So they seem like they'd be all entirely separate types of coverage, though, because of football, you're running up and down a sideline, I would think. I would love to see your petty counter, how many steps are you taking? How many miles are you running?
That's why I have a watch. It counts.
But hockey, you can't run up and down the side, right?
No.
So what do you use? A long lens, or
you want to use a long lens? So with hockey, and then hockey, basketball, you don't really have a lot of, maybe have 2 or 3 different posts you can be at. Yeah, football, volleyball. Football, you can be on the sidelines. Baseball, you can be along the corner. Sometimes different stadiums will have you just in a particular dugout, which you would only be able to be in one space. So having long lenses is critical to that.
Would you use more shooters for those type of events? I can imagine that.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
Baseball, you'd have to kind of cover a wide swath with multiples.
If you get paid enough to be able to afford a second shooter, or if you have an event where you want to pay out of pocket for a second shooter to make sure you get the best shots possible, then I would encourage it.
How about your shutter speeds? There's a lot of action, right? It's super fast.
Yeah.
What is can you explain the shutter speed?
Well, I always try to get there about an hour before the game starts, so that way I can test out what shutter speed works better in what lighting situations. Because indoors, it's much easier to control the lighting. Outdoors, when it's like football or baseball, it's a little harder, so you might have to slow it down a little bit. Ideally, I try to keep it around 1,000 shutter speed, because when athletes are moving, when the ball is in motion, you want to make sure that you capture that in as crisp detail as possible. So for us, shooting video being our training, we're used to having a shutter speed constant at either 1/50, 1/125, or if we do shutter angles, 1/180. But
do you understand these things?
No, I leave it to you guys. I'm just hey, get that. hey, you missed that. What's the matter with you? I hired you. Kristen, come on, keep up here.
Well, but shutter speed is like when things are moving really fast, you can capture
a split second.
Actually, yes.
Otherwise,
Steve,
it's blurry.
Have you ever moved your hand in front of your face before like this?
I do it all the time. I leave here and I do that in my car. I'm driving and I'm doing that. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Do you wonder why you can't, like if you're doing this, you can't really see the details of your fingers when you're moving your hand in front of your face like that?
Because it's moving?
Yeah.
Is that it? Did I get it right? I don't know.
Thanks for joining us. It works similar. Yeah, it works similar to shutter speed like that because like when we see motion blur through film, we're used to seeing that blurry movement like that. Yeah. But if it's a fast shutter speed, you would be able to see the details of your finger even if it's moving fast. So the faster that shutter speed is, the more detail you can see in fast motion like that.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the higher the shutter,
the better for
sports.
Better for action. Yeah. Better for sports,
but let's get artistic for a moment because
I'm down for this.
Right? And are you down for this?
Yes, I'm down.
Okay, so given that athletes are moving quickly, if you're say athletes going that direction and you're panning with them and you're able to capture the athlete still, but the background is blurry in that motion, then you've captured speed, yes?
Yeah. So it's much harder to do, yes.
Yeah. So what percentage of shots do you try to do that type of shot, or are you more like straight journalism?
Very little. Honestly, I don't think I've ever tried to do something like that because when you're shooting sports, again, like I said, you only have one chance to capture a particular moment. And I think unless you've shot for like 20, 30 years where you have the flexibility and the reputation of being able to do it all the time, you don't really have the flexibility to try an artistic style of shot where the background is moving but the player is still. Like I think if you can do that, that's just going to be a phenomenally better shot than what we capture on average. But it's
or maybe it's just a difference between being like the working horse, I got to get the shot, any shot, just because it's going to go in a newspaper.
Yeah.
And we need a shot versus you're an artistic photographer with a name and that's my signature shot.
Yeah, because you can always add that blur look in post-production. You can always do that later.
Yeah.
So I think just capturing the shot right there in the moment is way more important than having that kind of stylized look, I think.
What about colors? Because colors mean things, or if there's too many things in a shot, how do you compose a shot when you're in a stadium, for example?
Yeah, especially with all the people in the background, stuff like that.
Like I said, it's really about preparation. It's knowing where you can be, where to be. Like I know that when we were doing football, like okay, we have, or the other team has a really good offense, because I'm sorry, our offense this year was not that great. But let's say if you were shooting the opposition or like a really good offensive team, they were on the other side of the field. If you know that it's very likely they'll get to the other side of the field and score a touchdown or what have you, then you ideally want to put yourself in a position to get the best angle when everyone else is where the team currently is. So thinking ahead of like, where do I want to be when this happens?
Anticipating the movement of the game.
Exactly, because if you plan correctly, like you said, your shot could be in the newspaper, your shot could be on the website, it could be the shot that
in the museum.
If it's a championship game and you're in the right position, that one player who scored the winning touchdown, point, goal, whatever, they might use that picture and that might generate so many views. And
do you ever do art shots? Like I can imagine you're just talking about a football team not doing so well in a game, and I can imagine like the picture of their helmets lined up on the side, and one set of helmets is like completely trashed, and the other set are like really clean.
Yeah, no, I think that's important to also think about during events like that, is because you. Just like with weddings, as we were talking about, there's so much emotion built up with it. If the joys of winning and the lows of losing. So like I've captured some of the opposing players losing and having a stylized look to it. I've captured like not the football helmets like you said, although I think that's a great idea, of just the contrast of clean and dirty, or
it's like a story behind it. I like that.
There's always a story, and I think if you have story in the back of your mind while you're shooting, it just makes that picture so much more better, because it's not just like holding up to eye level and pressing the photo button.
Story is worth 1,000 words or more.
Or more, mostly more.
Yeah. So what about when you're shooting and there's a specific use for it? Like I know a lot of times we're looking for photography that we want to do like a meme for social or something. We want to put up some text on it.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So do you shoot to have these kind of areas where you can
Yes, but I don't actually do that part. So I actually worked for in a group called Guava Press Media, where I send the photos to the guy, make sure I edit them, and then he puts together all those captions. So for example, like let's just say for football right now, like San Francisco 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo throws touchdown to Deebo Samuel on a game versus the Chicago Bears on this date. A lot of that is generated through a program called Photo Mechanic. So because normally with sports you need to have the footage like that out. You want to be able to put it out as quickly as you possibly can. So having a shortcut definitely helps with like the text of like.
Is that like AI or something?
It's pretty much essentially, but I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I understand how it works and the programs they use for it. And yeah, because it's not like all typing out, because that would take a long time, and especially when fans want to see what happened to the game, they want to see what happened to their team. Usually the image is the first thing that they see. Yeah. So if it's like if they want to see the game, if they see their team celebrating, it's very likely their team won. If they see their team losing, it's understandable that their team lost. So being able to have that workflow where it's out quickly through getting the text out, getting the edit out quickly, it's significantly more important. Because, I mean, like I said, with weddings, there's a little bit of a delay. Photography can be like a couple days to a week, maybe 2 weeks. Video takes a bit longer because there's more to do.
But sports, you got to get it into the paper
like
that
afternoon. Like that,
yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, you're describing this, and I'm in my mind, I'm seeing like fingertip catch, no time remaining to win the game. And
exactly.
It's like that shot right there.
Being able to look at that shot, being able to take that picture and look at the shot and say, I took that. Yeah. That's my shot. That's a feeling that's really what makes me happy. I really, really love getting that shot, because we put a lot of energy, effort into it. We put a lot of money into our gear and all that sort of stuff. So being able to look at an image like that and being able to say, I took that, I haven't really found a better feeling yet.
So are there any photographers in the sports photography space that have like a signature style or look? Like you could look at a picture and go, I know exactly who shot that?
Well, again, I've only been doing this for about like 9 months, so I might not be accurate with it. But a lot of teams, photographers base their style around like the color pattern of the team they shoot for. So if it's more like red, yellow, they probably will go for more of a stylized look for there. If it's more blue, then it'll probably be more blue. But a lot of the times, one of the most important things when you're shooting sports is to make sure your whites are white, because one of the two teams will most likely have a white color jersey on, and that sets the balance for colors of the image. So however you want to do your style on that. One of the official photographers for UH Athletics has his own like stylized look, which looks really, really nice. But
what is that stylized look? Like,
it's more of like an orange. It's like more of an orange look to it. It balances greens very well.
Is it color balance thing, or it's a subject matter thing?
No, it's color balanced. I can tell it's color balanced very, very well. And then he just adds his own like kind of style to it to kind of create its own character and style. So that's not really my style, but I do really like his style, and I think it looks fantastic. So it's just more of personal preference, I think.
Interesting. So are you generally, when you shoot at a very high speed, are you trying to get like a really wide focus area, or are you letting things go out of focus and you're pinpointing a subject? Because it would seem like if you have a wider focus area, then you have a higher chance of capturing the shot. Right.
I think it all depends on what's going on in the situation. Like a lot of times, well, because there's a reason that some of the gear, like one particular lens that I'm saving up for is about $13,000 because it zooms in very far and it has a great shallow depth of focus.
You have one of those?
Yeah.
I
two of those is the price of a Red camera. Let's put it into perspective.
Maybe you'll get it on sale if you buy 2. I'll take 2, please.
You get $10 off. But no, like those kind of lenses, like with sports, ideally, unless it's more of a landscape-based shot where you want to see the stadium or field in its entirety, you want to have a really good shallow depth of field with a low aperture, so that way you can pinpoint the athlete or the football or the ball of whatever kind, or it's mostly the athlete.
So it adds to the composition of
it adds to the composition, and it draws the eyes towards the subject that you're trying to shoot. So a lot of times, like where you differentiate between like a couple $100s, a couple $1,000 to like 5-figure lenses is the depth of field and quality that you'll see. So a lot of the photographers that I've been following, like John Suhu, who is the Dodgers photographer. I think Emily Falls, she's a photographer for the Washington Commanders football team. They have styles where they shoot very long range with like these big lenses with really, really shallow depth of field, because a lot of the cheap lenses, you'll see the athletes, but you'll see the crowd behind them just as much focus. And it doesn't really draw the eyes towards that subject that you're trying to.
But you could also, like you said, do that in post.
Yeah, you definitely can. You definitely can. And right now that's where I'm at. But ideally, like I said, when you're shooting and you're editing sports photos, you're on a very small timeline. So you want to make sure that you have a workflow going. I already have my own little LUT that I designed for like volleyball, I had for baseball, for different kinds of lighting situations. Prepared in advance so that way you can spend as little amount of time as possible and get it out to the public as soon as you can.
Is it common that photographers rent things like lenses for special purpose?
Oh, yeah. Well, for the lens I was just talking about, 100%. You'll very rarely see people who own those unless you actually have been doing it for a long time.
You could rent Crystal's.
My lens?
Your $13,000 lens. You can rent it for $12,000.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. Well, I don't want to do that. I would do that to a rental house. I don't want to do that to my friend. Like if I mess up, there is not an apology in the world there is no cake with frosting on it that says, "Yo, sorry about that." That will ever make up for that kind of thing. So especially for first timers, like being able to rent gear before you buy it, especially if you're not too sure how to work it efficiently, is like I would highly, highly recommend that. For all sorts of stuff, not even
now
sports.
We know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ian, pleasure learning about how to shoot sports photography.
Absolutely.
How can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Eyes of Ian. You can go to my website as well, eyesofIanmedia.org. I am active on both of those things, so.
Perfect. And Crystal, how do they find us?
At ID8studios.org.
Thanks for joining.